Guys, welcome to the First Responder Playbook. It is my pleasure to have Monica Crawford with us today. Monica is a former police officer, entrepreneur, author, fitness expert, former Division One athlete. Do I need to keep going on? No, I'm not going to do her justice. So, Monica, tell my audience a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you for having me, Brent. My name is Monica Crawford. I You did part of the intro. You did most of the intro. I am former law enforcement. I did 8 years in Oklahoma law enforcement. I left there to start my own business. It's called 50 Fierce and Fit. It's an online nutrition, fitness, and leadership coaching company for who I call trailblazing women, many of those who are in male-driven fields. And I also wrote a book called Thriving Inside the Thin Blue Line, which is available on Amazon that details my experience in law enforcement and the challenges that I faced and worked through there. And then you also catch me at some conferences around the US. I like to train and teach and speak and get on stage for some keynotes when I get the opportunity to. So that's been fun. Oh, sorry. It's my alarm to feed my
So,
horse.
yep. So tell me, had you always wanted to be in law enforcement, or was that just something that kind of came to you as you got older, or how'd you get into law enforcement?
Yeah, so my path to law enforcement was not linear in the least. I went into college and I studied criminal justice, got my bachelor's and master's in criminal justice. I originally thought I was going to work in the court system, was thinking I was going to go to law school, changed my mind. I got an internship with a probation department near the school that I went to. I went to Bowling Green State University. It's in Northwest Ohio. I interned at Bowling Green Municipal Court. Up there, their municipal courts are all misdemeanor charges. Their district courts are felony charges. And so I got to intern with their municipal court in their probation department and quickly really enjoyed it. Found I enjoyed that. And then that was my goal to work in probation, actually. Once I graduated, the first full time job that I was able to get was in mental health. And so I was a mental health case manager for about a year and then found my way to a probation office. But I was working as a pre sentence investigator and report writer, basically doing backgrounds and interviews for court proceedings. So that was a mix of getting to go to the jail and interview some people and then also sitting in court to present the findings. When I decided to move from Northwest Ohio to the Tulsa area, that's when I started with probation and parole here in Oklahoma, which is sworn. Not every state has sworn probation and parole. And so that's how I wiggled my way into law enforcement through going through CLEAT here for probation and parole. Through some of the people who I met in CLEAT, found a part-time patrol position and started working some part-time policing and then eventually switched to full-time police.
I actually have a funny probation and parole story. During COVID, I got out of law enforcement for a little bit, and I decided I wanted to get back in, as every cop usually does at some point. And I applied at probation and parole, and I'll never forget that the Broken Arrow office they were at the old, right next to the city jail, like in the lobby. And so I was doing an interview, and um, I'll never forget the lady that was interviewing me. Her eyes got the size of like cantaloupes, and I'm like, apparently something's going on behind me. And it was a guy showed up at the police station or the city hall, and he was like chambering a rifle out in the like the parking lot area. And I was like, oh well, that's not good. And they like locked us in the glass lobby and wouldn't let us back in the offices. And I was like, well, thank God they like lock. I guess they could lock those doors. But I'm like, man, if he really wanted to like shoot his way in, like those glass doors aren't gonna stop anything.
Mm-mm.
And I started chuckling. I was like, well, I don't know if this is the place for me. So yeah, that's probably my favorite interview story of all time. Like, yeah, somebody showed up with a rifle during it and like derailed the middle of my interview. That was a fun time.
Yeah,
Uh,
I had to fill in those offices a couple times, so I worked out of the jail. It was like few and far between, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
yep. So you eventually transitioned to a patrol position. What was your favorite time when you went to patrol?
So one of the agencies that I worked for that was part-time patrol was great fun because it was on a river, it was on a lake, it was around water where we had boats, we had razors, and a lot, it was a good mix of watching like river rat, lake goer type people, it's prime people watching. So you're sitting there chuckling, um, watching somebody play dizzy bat and then wipe out like
Yeah.
on the gravel bar. Um, but there was a lot of calls. It was a lot of mix of like medical calls versus actual police calls. And it would it would get gritty quick because especially on the river, people would just hit each other with rocks and paddles. And we're just like, it's too hot and you've had too much alcohol. You get to go to jail now.
Yeah.
So it was entertaining, but it was a lot of fun.
That's yeah, and for folks that may not be in Oklahoma, there are specific police that do lakes, rivers, stuff like that, and they stay very busy in the summertime.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, so let me ask you, uh, how did you realize? Because I mean, that's probably one of your core tenets is like how to handle yourself in a male-dominated field. Um, how did you come to that mindset of like, I'm just as powerful as any of these guys out here. Like, I'm just as good of an officer. Like, because a lot of when a newer female officer a lot of time comes in, they try to fit in, and
Mhm.
they don't be themselves, and that's just not the way it should be. Like, they should be able to express themselves just as much as any other male officer. How did you come to the realization that, like, you know what, I'm not fitting into this mold?
Gosh. Um, so when going through the state police academy, there wasn't much of that. Like everybody was pretty family oriented. Um, Granted, I went through a commuter academy. It wasn't down in Ada. So it was local where everybody got to go home every night. But it was a smaller academy where we were fairly like family oriented. So I didn't feel any of that pushback necessarily in that setting. It wasn't or within probation and parole as well. Everybody, I mean, we had a pretty fairly split in the office of like men and women, so it was fairly equal there. Um, the municipal PD that I was at, that's where it was very in your face of, and it was funny because our academy too was even split. We had 4 women out of 9.
Wow.
Um, and so yeah, it was like bizarre scenario that we had about just as many women in there as we did men for that specific academy. But the academy prior to us was all men. They had like 10 or 12, and it was just straight men in the academy before us. So it just happened that way. Um, Within that academy, like the 2 of the people who were overtraining, it was pretty apparent that it was more like the ego was very present. Because any time that I would speak up or try to bring something to his attention or offer a suggestion or things like that, it was very apparent that that got smacked down real quick. And I'm like, bro, like, I'm not trying to challenge you. I'm trying to bring something to your attention or provide another option. Like, specifically, I had a shoulder injury that I was dealing with. And I was just trying to give him like options for me to do something different that wasn't going to hurt my shoulder. Um, CrossFit level 1 trainer, been doing CrossFit for a long time, have a gymnastics background. Like I know the fitness side of things. And he would look at me and be like, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to do this instead. I'm like, okay, like I'll listen to you because I have to. And I'm not really trying to step on your toes. But at the same time, like I know what I'm doing here.
Right.
So I got a lot of that pushback, and it got more apparent once I got to patrol as well. Um, Most people know that like the rookies are under a microscope. Everybody's like watching them, waiting to see what they do or don't do. And then as a female, you're even more under the microscope because you're one of the few. And when I bid to day shift, I was the only female on day shift, and I was one of 2 rookies on day shift. And so it was very apparent that I was under the microscope. But I think I always stood out because I naturally had some confidence to me. I had been a cop before working at that agency, and I had a pretty diverse background for most coming in there. And so I think it was more so that my confidence ruffled feathers a little bit, whether it be ego or maybe something else, I'm not sure. But I wasn't afraid to ask questions, and a lot of times that intimidated people. And I had to give a disclaimer a lot of times too of like, hey, if I ask you a question, it's because I'm trying to understand. Like, I'm not trying to challenge what you're telling me. I just want to understand the method to your madness. So then when this happens again, like I know what it is that you want or what's expected because I don't have to agree with what it is that you want. I just want to understand the reason behind it so that it makes sense to me to do. So that got me into trouble actually a couple times, like just trying to ask questions and get a decent answer from somebody.
I actually had that very exact same scenario because my brain works the same way. Is I'm not arguing to argue. I just need to know why we're doing it that way. And I had a supervisor from a very older generation, and like I always joke around because me and one of my best friends, like we both worked with him at different points, and we both could save a baby out of a tree, and he would get a commendation. I'd get wrote up, um, just because like for whatever reason, me and that supervisor just could not gel. Like it wouldn't matter what I did, and it would be the exact same scenario of like, hey, like I'm not trying to argue with you, and like I got in a pursuit one day, and there's actual case law from TPD coming into Broken Arrow of imminent harm. You can stop a car till the proper jurisdiction gets there, and I was aware of that. And so we'd got a call about a drunk driver, and I'd stopped the car, and it turned into a little short pursuit. OHP showed up. I filled them out a statement. They took it over, and we moved on with life. And I'll never forget that we get back, and like he's just like vein bulging in his face, and he's like, "Why would you do that?" And I'm like, "Dude, he almost killed somebody. Like I can't just let that go. It happened in front of me." And like I understand that he was like 30 feet outside of city limits when it happened, but like I'm not just gonna let him go kill somebody because of that.
Yep.
And I tried to be respectful about it, and it didn't go very well for me. And so me being the smart aleck that I am, I went and printed the case law off and like highlighted it for him, which definitely didn't work. But at that point I was like done with like trying to like fit in with them. But
Yeah.
like it was just one of those things like I was right. But since I was the newer officer, like, oh well that's just the way we've always done things was the mantra sometimes. And like I totally get that because like it's not that we're trying to argue, like we just want to comprehend like why we're doing those things.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did you get to the point to where you're like, you know what, I want to start my own business instead?
Yeah, so with the police department that I was in, and this is written throughout the book as well, I felt like I hit what I call a dark mental hole 3 times in 3.5 years, where I was, like, clawing back out of whatever challenge I was dealing with at the time. And towards the end of that time there, that's when I saw my mental and physical health starting to go down the gutter. I was dealing with anxiety. I was dealing with what were probably panic attacks. Um, I don't really know if you can label these things, but in trying to hindsight and trying to like heal and figure out what was happening back then, it's kind of like those indicators of those things.
Yep, been
Um,
there.
yeah, yeah. And so long story short, the camel, oh, what's the saying? The straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
There was a sergeant who I call the slimy sergeant in my book who, see, you're laughing because you probably know where this is going. Um, he tried to hit on me at one point, got inappropriate, and I pushed him back, and he got shot down. Um, but there were 2 different specialty units that I had applied to be on. Of course, he was the sergeant over them, and then of course I did not get selected for those units. And my frustration is building because I'm realizing what's happening. And he becomes my captain um, at some point and then ends up writing me up for something that was common practice, where it was okay when everybody else did it, but not when Monica did it.
Yep.
So by that time, I was like, this is not worth it to me. Like, I'm not trying to fight to be somewhere where it feels like I'm not wanted. And that's how it felt at the time. And of course, and I put this in the book too, calling it out as like emotional abuse. And I hate to even say that, but it is. There was a lot of gaslighting involved, saying, well, that was just a knee jerk reaction when I put in my 2 weeks notice. Like the IA went through and it concluded and they did whatever they had to do. I signed my write up. But they're like, oh, well, that's a knee jerk reaction. Why is she leaving? Yeah, why am I acting to your disrespect in the way that I'm acting to your disrespect? Like, don't make me feel like I'm crazy for reacting the way I did to your disrespect. So there was a lot of that going on, but probably within the first part of 2022, well, even leading up to that, a couple years, like a year prior to that, I was starting to interview at different places, going like, I need to get out. I need to figure out something else here. In January 2022, I came across a Facebook ad for a business coach. And at the time, I was like, I need to get out. I need to, like, something needs to change. I just hadn't found the right opportunity yet. And talking to my now husband, he's like, I think this would be a good investment for you, because I realized at the time, I was like, I have more background in like nutrition and fitness than I do up until like years on in law enforcement at this point. So I was like, well, I can make this happen. And so I started the business up in January of that year. Um, that whole internal affairs thing happened in like March, I think. And so by April, I put in my 2 weeks. And by grace of God, whatever you want to call it, it all lined up where the week that I resigned and left was the week that my income took off full time in my business.
Awesome. Um, that takes a lot of courage to be able to say, I'm going away from the steady paycheck, the police pension, and jumping into a business full time of like, you got to earn it. How did your husband take that initially? Was he supportive of that, or was he more along the lines of hey, like I want my wife happy? Was he?
Yeah, so ironically enough, a little bit more backstory to that initial story. We were dating and had just gotten engaged. And actually, I think, I can't prove this, but I think um, that internal affairs letter landed in our mailbox 2 days after we got engaged and announced our engagement. So it
Oh,
was like we went from the highest high to the lowest low really quick. Because he was actually involved in that write up as well, because he was with me at the time. So he was like collateral damage, but
yeah,
they couldn't do it to me if they didn't include him in it too. So I mean, he was supportive of it. He knew I was struggling. In some ways, he was struggling in the same ways. Being a male at the department, his eyes were opened, I think, to how some of the treatment was when he started dating me. Um, But unfortunately, shortly after I left, he was dealing with a lot of the same things and the same frustrations. And that actually caused some challenges within our relationship at the time, because I had just removed myself from that environment, and he was bringing that environment home to me
yeah,
every night, trying to vent and talk about it. I'm like, I want to listen to you, but this is literally re-triggering me right now. Like,
yeah,
I can't do this. So he was always very supportive, and he struggled for a little while. He eventually left it and moved on to a different agency as well. But I had to sit and watch him basically go through everything, like the same thing I went through, from the outside looking in. Um, because when you go back to the emotional abuse terms, one thing that helped in my healing process was figuring out what trauma bonding is. And everybody thinks that trauma bonding is just going through like bullshit together. Like, it's not. It's actually a part of a domestic violence wheel. If you study domestic violence and know those calls, it's the process of keeping people stuck. And it's why us as cops beat our heads against the dashboard going, why won't they leave? Why won't they leave? Why are we still going to the same house? Well, the same thing applies to toxic work environments of like, they breadcrumb you, and then they tell you how much they love you. And then all of a sudden the shit starts to hit the fan. And then when things calm down, it's, oh no, it's okay. Like, it's fine. This won't be a big problem. We still love you. We still want you here. And then like the cycle starts over again. So, and that's exactly what they did to him when he signed his letter of reprimand too. It was, oh, this is no problem. It's just a slap on the wrist. Don't worry about it. Well, if it's just a slap on the wrist, why wasn't this a conversation?
yes,
Instead of the whole circus of this write up and BS that didn't need to happen, because the other people who did it before us, guess what? They got a conversation that wasn't even documented.
yep,
And now we're going 0 to 100, and you're telling us, oh, it's okay, it's fine, don't worry about it. Everybody gets in trouble. Like, they try to normalize it and then make you feel crazy for like, quote unquote, normalizing, like dragging you through the mud and then being shocked in like how you respond to it.
yeah. And just for everybody that listens, like this happens at a lot of agencies, and it's not really just one agency specific. Like it's a culture we really need to change of like victim blaming because they'll get on you for 6 months and then they'll find somebody new and then they'll circle back around to you and it's toxic work environment and then they expect you to go out and interact with the public and be a public servant and it's not realistic to have a great mindset of interacting with the public when you have a toxic work environment and we really have to look in the mirror and say are we really doing the best job we can with our employees at the end of the day and I don't think we are.
Yeah, I've said it from the beginning. Treat people like people. That alone If you don't wanna have to worry about it's like police, we don't have a recruiting and retention problem. We have a people problem. You can't treat your people like people because guess what? If you invest in your people, they will stay. Police are
Yep,
hardworking people by nature. I think we become lazy because we get burnt out and get beaten down from trying to be productive people. But if you take care of your people and invest in them, they will stay and they will recruit for you.
absolutely. So you start your business, it takes off pretty quickly. How did you decide that you wanted to write a book?
Gosh, I can't even remember what sparked that. Again, I think it was another you can call it a God thing, a universe thing, whatever you believe in. It was one of those things that it kept getting put in front of me of like an ad to write a book. And then it would come up in a conversation of, oh, you should write a book. And then I would see it again somewhere else. And I'm like, this is a sign. Somebody's sending me a
Yep.
sign that I need to write a book. Um, Maybe it was just interactions and talking to people too and kind of just sharing my story. They're like, gosh, you should write a book. And for a while I was mulling it over and I was trying to figure out how to do it. And I was talking to a couple different like book coaches and things like that. And I actually landed with Adam Davis. Are you familiar
Mm,
with that name? Adam Davis originally wrote a devotional for law enforcement. And it's been 10 or 12 years ago now, I think, since he wrote it. He's written several books since then, but he's a well known keynote speaker, former law enforcement officer, turned author and business coach. Super awesome guy. And so soon as I found him, like it just aligned. I was like, okay, like we're very similar. You get me, like you'll understand my jargon when I write, like you'll get the story, like all of these things, rather than me trying to explain this stuff to like Joe Schmo, you know?
yep.
So he was like, yeah, you got a story, like let's do it. And so we put it all together and kicked it out. But the incredible thing has been to me is how many women specifically who have read it and then messaged me back and said like I am living your story. It's the same and it's validating to hear somebody else talk about the same things because I thought it was crazy. Like I thought I was crazy. I thought it was just a part of the job of what we have to deal with in order to be here, all of these things. So it's been it's been very humbling to hear those stories come back to me too.
Yeah, absolutely. How long a process was it to write the book and get it published?
Uh, I wanna say like 6 or 8 months.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of on your own timeline of how quick you wanna write and are able to write and get everything out on paper. Um, for me, it wasn't hard to share the story, it was more difficult to, like, organize it, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. So having the structure and, like, the coaching part of it was helpful there as far as organizing everything I wanted to put on paper. Because the part of it's my story and the other part of it is resources for others in nutrition, fitness, mindset, and leadership, um, to take back your own control so that if you find yourself struggling, like know that you have more control than you think you do, and you can still create the life that you want to live by using these pillars and putting them into practice.
How does it feel to be able to share like that message with others now? I mean, I know you said that you're getting a lot of good feedback from it and like it's helping a lot of people. Um, but because I can just tell, like, I see your posts all the time and I see like the genuineness. Gosh, it's Monday. And you know, you don't take that big career leap without wanting to help others in the first place. And then you write the book on top of it. Like, how awesome is that to have that platform to be able to help others?
I mean, I don't take it lightly.
Yep.
And I think it's been a long and incredibly messy healing journey too, because, what happened after I left was basically my body crashed out, like, I was in full adrenal fatigue, I gained 25, 30 pounds, didn't have the ability to work out, like, my body wouldn't recover, um, honestly, I've probably spent 25, $30,000 in doctors and trying to have them help me figure this out and get my body back to what I would consider normal for me. Still not quite there yet, but getting closer. Part of that was mental health therapy to get rid of a lot of trauma. Some that was not police that I was still holding on to. A lot of it was from that experience, but some prior to that even. Um, so I mean, it's taken me time to evolve too, as far as like when I got out, it was I need to sell a service and I need to get paid.
Yep.
Like It like literally that's what it started as, and it started as, well, people need to be fit for duty. People need to be in shape. And that's literally what it started as. It's like, I'm going to get you fit for duty. Since then, it's evolved to a much more. And I've talked to business coaches and other people. They're like, Monica, you're not in survival mode anymore. Now where are you going? And I'm like, holy shit, I'm not in survival mode anymore. Like I can actually make a decision with a clear head that's not fear based. That's not like survival based, you know? So I've been fortunate for the women who I've worked with. The thing that I enjoy most is seeing that mindset shift and seeing them. I call it like their glow up. It's like during a 6-month one-on-one program, there's usually halfway through like something clicks and you can see it, you can feel it. Where all of a sudden they're like, nope, my boundaries are my boundaries. I'm leaving work at work. When my radio shuts off, I'm not thinking about it. I'm going kayaking. Oh, by the way, I've reversed my pre-diabetes. I'm down 30 pounds. My life is better than it's ever been. And that's what's most fulfilling for me. And my hope is that I'm basically trying to serve those who are serving others, so that they can better serve the people who they want to serve, but also like live a life on their own terms.
Yeah. Um, have you met Jennifer yet through ADB? Jennifer Anderson.
Not yet, but I know who that is.
So I went through her first responder coaching certification just a couple months ago, and
Okay.
she has a lot of. I need to really introduce you and like make that connect because she has a very good story of just going through it with her husband on the spouse side, and that's how she got her journey into coaching. And then I went through her program recently, the past few months, and when you start going through those coaching programs, you realize like coaching is not necessarily like telling people what they want to hear. Like you're pushing them to better themselves.
Mhm.
And sometimes those boundaries need to be pushed to make sure that you're not doing the same thing you've been doing either wrong or bad that whole time. And you got to change that mindset from I'm just surviving to thriving. And I love that you both, like I said, she has her own deal, and I love it that you guys are out there doing that because we need that in this profession. Like we don't need a bunch of crabs in a bucket. We need people that want to support each other and like make each other like be successful. That's what I was telling somebody the other day. Like I'm a very competitive person. Like I think it's part of like being a cop that like if you
Mhm.
get on a very proactive shift, you want to go out there and like, man, I made the coolest arrest or I made the biggest drug bust. And like that's cool. Like I like catching criminals,
Mhm.
but I also like when my partners make big drug busts and make big warrant arrests and like find guns. Because you want to know why? Because that means we're all out there doing stuff that we enjoy and we're
Mhm.
all serving the citizens. Like I want to see them do just as well as I do. It's not, oh my God, Brent's got to be the best cop out there. Like I want to see everybody succeed. And there's too many people in this profession that like they only want to see themselves succeed. And like we've got to change that mindset. And the whole mantra of like checking your personal life at the door is no longer a realistic thing in my opinion. Like life and career intertwine.
Mhm.
Your career affects your life affects your career, and you can't just say, "Hey, you should check your personal life at the door." Like that affects your job, like every day.
Mhm.
And like supervisors anymore need to be coaches because they've got to manage a shift of 5, 6 individual personalities that have different interests, different lives. Like this whole, well, that's the way we've always done it needs to end, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it goes back to taking a vested interest in somebody. I used to say a lot of times, and this is how things got started with the slimy sergeant. Actually, um, I was always somebody who I'm very observant naturally, and I mean, cops typically we pick up on behavior, right?
Yep.
Well, me more so in like a personal standpoint, like I would do that with my coworkers. And typically it just naturally when you think about it, just kind of observe like what's going on and how everybody's doing. Um, so for instance, like every once in a while, like I'd get somebody be like, gosh, this guy's being an absolute dick today. Like, what's wrong with him? And I'm like, I wonder what is wrong with him actually. And I actually went and asked him on shift. I was like, "Hey, man, like, you doing okay?" He's like, "I put my dog down last week." Bingo.
Yep.
Bingo. So let's stop calling him a dick. Let's ask him how he's
Yeah.
doing. But with the slimy sergeant, he was going through a massive like public breakup, which was part of his problem because he liked to date everybody in the PD. I digress. But he was going through a massive breakup, and at the time, he came into shift, and his eyes were red and bloodshot, looked like he had been up all night, type of thing. And all it was a text. Hey, are you doing okay? I know you're going through some shit. Like, if you want to talk to somebody, I'm here. I don't go blab to anybody else because I didn't. It's like A and B conversation. I'm not spilling your shit to everybody else on shift. Um, if you need anything, let me know. Well, of course, my husband, I think he and I had just started dating at the time, was like, you know, when you send that text that they think that you're into them, right? I was like, what? I'm not inside of a guy's brain to know what that means to them, apparently, but literally that's all it was a
Right.
kind-hearted gesture of, are you okay?
Yeah, trying to be a friend, a shift
Not
mate.
Yeah, not an open door to anything else by any means, but yeah, a lot of times people are going through a lot of shit. You just have to stop and ask them. And, like, don't door up just a bitch about everything. Like, ask them how their day is.
Exactly, because that negativity breeds more negativity, and then it spreads like a wildfire around the department, and it ruins the whole department's morale. And then they're like, "Well, I wonder why everybody's miserable at work." Well, it's because you don't handle the problem originally and just check on that person or take care of the issue, whatever the case may be, and you let it get out of control, and then here we are 6 months later.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So you're doing some national conferences now. How did you start going down that route? And that's an awesome opportunity to like spread your message. Um, how are you enjoying that?
Yeah, so it's been a full circle moment for me because my goal was always to end up out in training. I had tried my hand at firearms instructor school, didn't make it through the first time. Don't think I'll get an opportunity to do that again unless I go through the NRA side of things, which is okay. Um, but I had applied for FTO, wasn't selected for FTO. I still have a laser instructor certification, so I'm still active shooter certified. I was trying to go down the path of having a position out in the training center, and being one of those people out there. Again, applied for that, didn't get chosen, one reason or another. But that was my end goal. I volunteered to help with the academy at any time I could. Like, the answer was always no, unless it was one of my good friends let me come out and help her teach like her domestic violence block, something like that. So that was always my goal. Not to mention, you don't see many women in those training roles, especially
Right.
defensive tactics, firearms, driving. You just don't. Um, and it used to be my goal that I really wanted to get on the gun range because to this day, I don't know of a female state firearms instructor. There could be one out there, but I've not heard of one, met one, don't know. Um,
Now that you say that, I don't think I'd know one either.
exactly. So perhaps I can help on the outside end from that perspective now. Um, but I was wanting to get out into training, and so it's been a full circle thing that now I'm able still to teach and train. It's just from a different perspective on the outside looking in. So I always wanted to do that. I'm BID certified. I went through BID school, instructor school here. They did let me go through that. So I've been wanting to public speak and get up there for a while. Being a CrossFit coach, naturally you're up talking in front of people and working them through the same stuff every day. So it was really easy to pick up and to roll into the similar thing, just different course material, right? Um, so I mean, it was one of those things that through network. I can't say like the biggest thing that will help you out in your career in life. Network. I met a retired Dallas police officer who was a 30-year lieutenant, female, out of Dallas. She's badass. I love her to pieces. She retired and became a first responder life coach in a couple different capacities. We met through Facebook. And she was the one who plugged me into the Texas Women of Law Enforcement Conference, which is held in Fort Worth every year. She's plugged me into one of the Dallas Police Women's Symposium events down there. And then in the same light, there were a couple opportunities that I plugged her into. Like, she and I did a Women's Law Enforcement Summit in New Orleans last spring that we traveled together, got to split the room and kind of do that together too. So it's been fun. But a lot of it's from networking and word of mouth and trying to get in front of the right people. LinkedIn is another great resource. Just connected with somebody today on a women's law enforcement conference board today that was like, "Hey, you have an event coming up. Do you need somebody?" So it's like it's networking, it's shooting your own shot. It's just you just got to get if you're gonna do it, you got to get up there and go after it. But it's been a lot of fun. I love the in-person events because you get to meet people in person versus talking to them through a screen, which I mean I enjoy that too. But you just can't replace like being in person, like in the same room with all those people.
Absolutely, and for people, it's never a lot of smaller agencies. People may never get to go to those big conferences through their agency, and they may have to pay for themselves. But I never went to one until about 2 years ago, and I finally went, and I came back so refreshed afterwards because there were at this particular conference. There's people from all over the world with different views on law enforcement and different ideas, and like I came back and I was like, man, this is awesome. Like I've got such a good mindset again. And like it helps to get out and network and meet people. And I'll never forget, I went back again this year to that conference and we actually stayed on site and we got to network so much more this year. And I actually ended up getting my first article published out of it because I got out and networked this time.
Yeah,
And the guy gave me like such great advice on like writing a persuasive article. And I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense. He's like, man, your article is fine, but it was an academic article. Like no one wants to read an academic article unless it's in like a peer reviewed journal. And I was
yeah,
like, okay, that makes sense. And he gave me some advice, and like I sat there for like a week and a half with like writer's block, and I was like, I don't know what to write about. And I was at the conference, and I was fixing to go to bed one night, and it just hit me, and I knocked it out in like an hour. And he was like, man, this is so much better. He's like, we'll publish this one. And I
sweet.
would have never done it without like going to the conference and networking and like meeting him, and like I would have never came out of my comfort zone to do that. Like I'm working on my doctorate, but like I hate writing. Like I'm not a writer. And he made me actually feel like my article was halfway decent, like and so that's all it takes is somebody being a positive influence and like giving you that push sometimes to like, hey, take that chance. Like the
Yep.
worst I can tell you is no. Like, come out of your comfort zone a little bit, and, like, I try to tell people all the time, it's okay to fail.
Mhm.
Like, you can fail, just come back stronger next, and, like, learn from those mistakes that you made when you failed, and just do better moving forward. Like, I got out of law enforcement COVID and took an insurance agent job. Terrible time to take a fully commissioned job, and
Yeah.
they put me in a part of town that they had more people didn't have insurance than did, and, it went beyond terrible. Like, I failed, but I learned from it. Like,
Mhm.
I would have never went down the journey of getting my doctorate and master's degree without like failing. I would have been fine just being a city cop, being a corporal working overnights. And we've got to realize that we have talents and like we need to use
Yep.
them. So what's next for you?
I'm working on getting in person more. Working on booking more events for spring of 2026. Just working on expanding the business. I started a school group not too long ago that's for the women that I serve, with the goal of building that safe knit community for women. You don't have to be working towards a nutrition and fitness lifestyle like kind of goal. You could get in there just because you want to be in a positive community where you can network and grow. It's geared towards personal and professional growth in one way or another. With those nutrition and fitness resources in there if you need them, but that's not like a prerequisite for you to get in there, because I found there's always been a gap for women as far as having like supportive people to lean on, especially other women. We tend to compete with other women since there's so few of us.
Yes.
Um, and so I'm working to build that community as well. So that's in progress. And then just more events, hoping to get my book in front of more eyeballs, all of those good things.
When we get done, I'll give you another event you should attend next year that's early in spring 2026 that I think you would do very well at.
Cool.
Um, and they actually give you a free conference if you get selected to teach there. So, I mean, even better, you get a full week of good classes too.
Yeah.
Um, what's one piece of advice for any female person that's getting into a first responder role? what's one piece of advice that you would tell them, like, hey, just take this into account, like over the whole journey of your career?
I think the biggest lesson that I learned was that I lost myself in trying to please other people. And so my biggest piece of advice and takeaway is stay true to who you are, because if you don't, you'll literally wage a war inside yourself. Because that's exactly what happened to me. It was fighting myself and who I was, trying to be, I don't want to say I was trying to be accepted, but when you're new at an apartment, like you're trying to go with the flow of things. You're not trying to go against the grain necessarily. So it's not like you're in a high school clique trying to fit in necessarily, which there can be that aspect of it, but that's like not your goal, right? Like you're just trying to make a good impression and show that you can hold your own and basically just earn your spot. But you can do that by staying true to you. Don't feel like you have to make yourself smaller just to fit in or to go with the flow. And if you do, if you are recognizing that you're having to go through any of that, then maybe that department is not for you. There will be other places where your values supported and respected.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. So, if people want to join your community, where can they join your community at? How can they get a hold of you? Where can they get your book? Um,
The main website where everything is listed, it's 50fierceandfit.com/info, where you can find everything. I'm on all the social media platforms. That's all linked on there. The book and the school group is also linked on there. So that's the one place you can find me. There's a free resource you can download too. It's called a Shift Work Nutrition Guide. If you're looking for some introductory advice on how to improve your nutrition and also how to make it fit for shift, so that you can improve your energy, you can kick the brain fog and maybe start losing a couple extra pounds and inches. That's the very first place to start. So there's a free resource there for you too.
I love that. I love it. Guys, everybody give Monica a follow. She's welcome back anytime. And Monica, I wish you much success moving forward.
Thank you, Brent. I really appreciate it.
Have a good night.
You too.